There's so much tainted pack today. I wish a ban or two would make it go away. Monday, Meta Monday. Monday, Meta Mondays. How we doing, folks? Good morning, good morning, good morning. happy Monday. Happy Meta Monday. And boy golly, do we have a meta game to look at this morning. So over the weekend, we had the MPL event that was split standard and historic. And while this is only 60 deck lists and it was a split format tournament, we can talk about what happened here in terms of what the metagame looked like. So what you can't do with a sample size like this is you can't draw strong statistical conclusions based on the results of what happened here. However, what looking at a small MPL event like this does for us is it gives us insight into what the best players in the game think about the current format and what they think is good. And what you see here in front of you, there's no total, but there's 60 deck lists total in front of us here, and 32 of them registered Tainted Pact. We had 17 Grixis and 15 Dimir. That is a lot of Tainted Pact. It is an incredible amount of Tainted Pact. And something that I want to point out here, because I got into it with someone on Twitter over the weekend, is that someone, in fact, I meant to pull that thread up before I started. I'm gonna go ahead and do that here. Where are my Screwpath birthday pictures and all sorts of other stuff? So where was the thread here? So I had to put Christopher here on blast. I don't think, for the record, I don't think Christopher's line of thinking is incorrect here entirely, but it's important to look at what the data says. So like they basically said here that like, don't the league weekends always look like this? Aren't the MPL events always not diverse? And I was just like, hey, could you cite your source on this being the norm? And this was the first piece of data that we looked at. And they linked me this. And at this particular event, Sultai was 33% and Junsac was 25%. And then in Rivals, it was 40% for Sultai. And guess what, chat? This data that they linked, you look at it, the total 38%. This is a weekend Uro was legal. So like, this is why I like to ask people to like cite their sources when they talk about stuff, because they linked this first piece of information and it basically backs up my feelings on what the league weekend says about the format as a whole, right? Because we know history, we all know what happened to Uro, right? So like, this was a weekend where we had almost 39% of the format register Sultai control, and then Uro was banned. So this was 4 months ago. Uro was banned not long after this incredible lack of diversity in the league weekend. And then they went on to link some more things here. And if we look at some of these other breakdowns that they had, we can see that like 40% is not the norm inside of these. So 35%, that might even be a little high, but you look at some of these other metrics, like this is February. This one, the top deck was 25%. This one, 19%. So it's important that while these events tend to have a little bit less diversity than, like what the ladder is or a large open entry tournament, this is not the norm that 50+%, 32 out of 60 all showed up and registered the same thing. And in fact, when we got close to this metric previously, they ended up banning Uro finally. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping that the metrics from here, in addition to people like myself talking about the play patterns and people looking at other events that have happened, that we see some kind of movement on the Tainted Pack deck. For the record, I don't think Tainted Pack itself is something that necessarily needs to go away, but I do think that something should be hit from there. Ideally, if I was in charge, I'd ban Oracle. I think you could justify banning Lurrus. There are 5 Lurrus decks. So looking at the non-Tainted Pack decks, out of 28, we have 5 Lurrus decks, which isn't too terrible, but like in the pack decks, a lot of the pack decks are Lurrus decks too. And for the record, I don't think just banning Lurrus hits the Tainted Pack deck really, even though, 29 of the 32 were playing Lurrus. I think only banning Lurrus would be a mistake. I think you could justifiably remove Lurrus from the format on top of hitting something inside of the Tainted Pack deck itself, but I don't think you want to just get rid of Lurrus. Something else that's important to highlight here as well, that I think is something that's very easy to miss when you're focusing on the Tainted Pack, is not only does Tainted Pack reduce competitive diversity in terms of what do the best players actually want to register, but look at the rest of the deck lists in this tournament too. The rest of the deck lists here paint another important picture, which is that if you look at these, Jeskai Control, Izzet Phoenix, Dimir Rogue, Bant Control, Jeskai Creativity, Temur Adventures, there are only 3 decks out of 60 decks here that don't contain blue cards. And this really highlights to me the play pattern restrictions that Tainted Pack existing in Historic puts on the format. When the good players know that Tainted Pack is coming, they either play Tainted Pack or they pretty much all register blue cards, because counter spells are the only meaningful way you can interact with Tainted Pack. When I talk about banning a deck like Tainted Pack, there's a lot of people that in bad faith like to point out, they say, Jeff, you just don't like combo decks. And that's not true. I think combo decks can be interesting and healthy. I think it's fine if a combo deck can be one of the better decks in the format. But the metric in my mind that makes a deck okay or not okay is how many axis of interaction you have with that combo deck. And Tainted Pack basically demanding you have counter magic to interact with it is not interesting or healthy in terms of generating a good competitive diverse environment. And we see that develop here with players that understand what's going on in the format and are very good Magic players. Sure, discard spells kind of work, but discard spells don't protect you off the top of their deck, and their deck is so redundant, right? Like, they only have 2 Tainted Packs and 2 Thassa's Oracle, but they have so many copies of Grim Tutor and Wishclaw Talisman and all these other things that, like, let you find your combo pieces. Yeah, so, yeah, basically that. Own is cool. We had a bunch of subs and resub in there. Own is cool. Thanks for the 25 months. Julio coming in hot for the quarter of a year. CTG Medic, thanks for the 3 quarters. AGH with the 37. Silver Oak, good morning for the third of a year. Jordushi, thank you for the 9 months. Azintoth, 45 months is a long time. That's getting close to a castle. Vicarian, thank you for the 25. Thoughts and prayers towards an Oracle ban. You and me both. Ibnis, Twitch ads reminding you to do the Prime sub. Thanks for doing the thing. Paula with another long one, 38 months. Manic TikTok, thanks for the follow. We're Staber N8, thanks for the 31 months of Prime. Shadow Rail and Lambton, good morning and thank you for the support. We have win rates for the deck. So, again, if you're just coming in late, just to wrap up, this was a 60-player tournament that was a split format tournament. So, from a statistical standpoint, you should not focus on or think about the actual win rates or statistics inside of the games played, because the sample sizes are not statistically significant. And past that, not only are they not significant, but 32 out of your 60 players were playing packed, which means not only do you not have a lot of matches to begin with, but the matches that you do have a bunch of mirror matches that you have to ignore. So your small sample size gets smaller when you're just looking at Tainted Packed versus the rest of Tainted Pact. Is how it works out. All right. So yeah, sweet. If you're watching this on YouTube in the future, let me know if you enjoy this type of content. Is it worth doing breakdowns like this of, these MPL style tournaments if we don't have a full data driven approach? Is it worth it to give this kind of high level overview of what I think happened and why it happened? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're in Twitch chat, let me know in chat if you like